You're watching The New Stack Makers, a podcast for people who develop, deploy, and manage at-scale software. For more information and articles about at-scale technologies, please visit thenewstack.io. Now enjoy the show.
Heroku is a comprehensive platform as a service designed to help companies build, deliver, monitor, and scale apps. Heroku enables teams to focus on what's important, the apps and services that run their business.
Hello, everyone, and welcome to another on-the-road episode of The New Stack Makers. I'm Heather Joslin, Editor-in-Chief of The New Stack. We're coming to you from the very lively and noisy floor of KubeCon and Cloud Native Con Europe here in London, England. And today we're going to share some tea, see what I did there, about the platform as a service approach to supporting developers as practiced by Heroku, one of the first cloud platform companies and one that's still a robust player in the cloud native ecosystem. In fact, we're going to talk about Heroku's contributions to the open source world. And our guide for all this is Betty Junod, Chief Marketing Officer and Senior Vice President of Heroku at Salesforce. Hi, Betty.
Hello.
Betty, can you tell our audience a little bit about what Heroku does and maybe elaborate for us a little bit on the platform as a service approach?
So Heroku is a platform as a service. We've been around since 2007, and we were acquired by Salesforce in 2011. Mm-hmm. So platform as a service is really about, like, in today's terms, like developer platform and runtime platform as one integrated experience. Mm. And so we have basically taken together, like, if you think about all the infrastructure building blocks that you need, the pipelines, CI/CD, and then like the at runtime, like the application monitoring as an example, observability, put all that together into one integrated experience. Mm-hmm. And so it's a much, and where we take care of the the automation, the like lifecycle management, the integration. So it really kind of helps to scale the effort of an operations team or a platform engineering team, but providing a very simplified developer experience. Because as you know, there's so many things out there today, so many tools that it's just, we talk a lot about toil. And we've always been, since the very beginning, about how do we help builders get their apps deployed very quickly in the cloud, and then make scaling and managing that much easier. Mm-hmm. So we're carrying that through today. We started out with Ruby on Rails. We now support 8 different languages, and we're adding a ton of new capabilities, so it's very exciting.
Excellent. How does Heroku's identity as a platform as a service company shape its investment in open source?
Yeah, so what's interesting is we've been part of like Cloud Native Buildpacks for a long time. It's something that our team has been very involved in. Mm-hmm. I think what's interesting is because Heroku started in 2007, it was before Docker.
Yeah,
it was before containers. I mean, it was early days of like AWS, right? And so our service is built on AWS, but our engineers had to like custom roll our own containerization using LXC and our own orchestration. And it's the most important thing that we've been doing now is that over the last like 18 months is we have been re-platforming the platform. And that's a big enough decision for like end user organizations, but then for someone like us who is hosting like thousands and thousands of end users on our platform, it was kind of a big decision. But as part of that re-platforming, it was to move to Kubernetes, OCI, having the Buildpacks part of the platform. And with that came, we became platinum members of the CNCF. So we're not only using this technology and making it more accessible to more people. What we want to do is make sure that it's the community around it is supported.
And how does the company support open source maintainers in particular?
Yeah, so we have project contributors and maintainers, especially on Cloud Native Buildpacks, and that's one of the projects in the project pavilion. Mm-hmm. And as platinum members, we have a 3-year commitment as that membership into the CNCF. Mm-hmm. We have a seat on the governing board, so we're actively participating there. Mm-hmm. And then, as we're looking at the technologies we can bring into the platform, it allows us to kind of engage with those contributors and projects more. Like OpenTelemetry is another one we've been getting more, spending more time with because we're bringing that into the platform. So this has really been like the beginning of a much more fruitful journey with the entire cloud native ecosystem.
That's great. What are some of the key projects that Heroku is currently supporting, and are there any news about those projects, those open source projects that you'd like to share?
Yeah, I mean, I think with the Buildpacks, there's a few talks here. What's been exciting is that Buildpacks was something that was started between Heroku and Cloud Foundry. Cloud Foundry, which is now also part of CNCF.
Right.
But it's now something that's in both of those platforms, our platform and their platform. But it's something that the broader cloud ecosystem has adopted as well. The other big one is at the last KubeCon, we actually open sourced the 12-factor app.
Yeah.
It was kind of a manifesto methodology for way back, like back in 2014, on how to build reliable performant apps for the cloud, because It was still new. People didn't know how should we do certain things. We open sourced it then. We have a number of project maintainers from there's some people from Heroku, there's people from Salesforce, our parent company, AWS, IBM, Intuit, there's a range of folks involved.
Yeah.
And we're really looking to how do we take a look at these factors? How do they still apply in today's world? Because now we have lots of companies who have run massive amounts of infrastructure and massive applications at web scale, right?
Right.
So how can we take those learnings, codify them into updating those factors? And maybe some factors need to be looked at and applied differently now that we know more. And then sharing that back out with the community. Because there's other folks everyone's on a different stage in their journey.
Right.
Yeah.
And we spoke to y'all in November about this at the last KubeCon in Salt Lake City. There was talk, I think, at the time, and we will link to that story in the notes that go with this video. But there was talk at the time about there might be things we need to revisit. You just mentioned there might be things that can you think of an example of something one of the factors that maybe needs to be looked at?
Yeah, and so since we have announced it, there's been a few updated blog posts, some from ourselves and then some from folks that are involved in the project. We're also hosting 2 discussion groups here this week. One's today, and I think the other one is on Friday, so that we can bring more people into the discussion. Workload identity is one that we're talking about, and how we handle, and also how we handle things like secrets. Just because so much has happened, evolved in that art. And so it's still just they're open issues right now for people to comment and discuss. And then through those discussion groups, what we'll do is we'll look at evolving and codifying that.
Oh, there's a voice from above. We need to pause for a second.
The conference gods are speaking.
Yes. I'm glad you're hearing it too, because I was concerned. Okay, now we can resume. Well, secrets. You mentioned, that's something that's been new since Heroku was founded, since the 12-factor apps framework was put together. That with all this talk about shifting left, developers have to pay more attention to security and so forth. So that would obviously be something that needs to be revisited. Is there anything else with that project that you can? I mean, there's discussions happening here about it. Are there any sort of looming questions around some of the factors other than the ones you mentioned that
those are kind of the first ones that we're tackling because they came up from the broader group. Since we're driving this as an open source project, the discussion groups are really important to help talk through the ideas and talk through the learnings that each of the contributing members have had. Say okay, how could we apply that? Is that a unique scenario for you, or is that something that could be applied broadly? How could we write that into kind of a defining best practice, which is what the factors are. And for us, from a product perspective, the way we build Heroku platform is about codifying those as product capabilities, platform capabilities. So so they become things that are those are our opinions that are baked in, right? And those are the things that we automate on behalf of the customer.
Yeah. Does Heroku have any product news or anything
Yes.
that they're announcing at this conference that you like to talk about?
Yes, why, yes, we do. So a few months ago, we announced that, we've been talking about this replatforming. And a few months ago at reInvent, we kind of announced the initial pilot phase of our next generation of Heroku. So generation is what we call our versioning, as an example of the runtime, the underlying platform. And it's called Generation Fir because all of our versions are named after trees.
Oh, okay.
Yeah, so that's kind of a fun little fact. But we're announcing the GA. The bits will go live, later this month.
Okay.
But so the general availability of Fir, which is really the replatforming to Kubernetes and other open source, cloud native open source technologies. So using Kubernetes, OpenTelemetry, OCI-based containers and cloud native build packs. We also have, we're continuing to have the pilot around our managed inference. So you have the core runtime platform, and then we're also bringing in like AI capabilities into the platform. We're supporting more languages. So .NET, support for .NET, finally, is gone general GA. And we recently announced the GA of a VS Code extension. So in a IDE that's a popular IDE that developers love, they can now build, deploy, and then manage and troubleshoot their apps by staying in their IDE.
That's great. That's great.
Oh,
Yeah.
I've got one more open source thing.
Yes.
Sorry.
Yes. Oh no.
I know this was a fun one. Jupyter Notebooks.
Oh yeah.
So we recently open sourced the ability, as an open source to for support for Jupyter. What this means is they can very quickly and easily spin up a Jupyter Notebook without having to deal with all the configurations and ephemeral environments. So having that direct support, what we're really focusing with that is expanding the type of users, right? So people who are data scientists doing ML, we can bring them into the fold and give them a great platform experience, a low operational overhead experience, so that they can do the data science, which is the important part.
Yeah.
VS Code and .NET is supporting more developers in the languages that they like to work in, with low operational overhead, with the low developer hurdles.
One theme that's kind of been running through my conversations here is companies sort of looking to bring in other groups of users. Maybe they focus on one area, but then they look toward the Kubernetes audience, for example, and they're trying to create outreach to them through new features and capabilities. Also, AI is changing everything, and every company is finding ways to accommodate AI workloads and AI customers who are interested in that right now, which is everybody. Everybody. So you highlighted a little bit about the data scientists. Obviously, that's a group of people who are intensely interested in AI and involved in AI.
Yeah, and it made the data science was is important because Kubernetes is already a great target for a lot of these data intensive use cases because of the just the way that the infrastructure, the way that it orchestrates the infrastructure. So bringing on the support for Jupyter is really going to do the other end, right? The people who need to do the work to manipulate that data. On the AI side, for Heroku, we actually have two things. One is the managed inference and agents. So it's the ability for developers to easily add things like language models or as they're building custom apps or custom workflows, custom agents. Because if I'm working in whatever language, that's what I'm going to use as my primary medium to build the thing.
Right.
So that's something that we have there, and they maintain the same Heroku user experience. It's just a new command in their Heroku syntax, and they're able to add a language model of their choice, and kind of use that in there. On the other half is agentic technologies. So as part of Salesforce, we have Agentforce. Which is really which is our agentic technology to do agents that's anchored around the customer 360 data. Because starting with CRM and going to support and marketing, it has you have the full life cycle of the customer's experience and what the data surrounding them. So we have a bunch of these agents out of the box, out of the cloud because we're SaaS, and so we have this great agentic technology that's there, low code and no code tools. So business analysts can start to define like, I need a finance agent to process these things, whatever. I need a sales support agent to handle these. Heroku is a great complement to that because then if there are specific actions, custom actions that, or some more calculations or these different sort of processing that they want to have happen, that can be built and deployed on Heroku, and then that can be seamlessly integrated into that agentic experience. So it's bringing the kind of Salesforce admin and business analysts together with the developers in their company to build the right kind of agents to, really kind of operationalize and automate like various business workflows.
Yeah, and it does seem like the agents are kind of filling in for, there are some positions that are hard to hire for on an IT team or engineering team, and it does seem like that's one reason people are embracing it. What can you tell me about the roadmap for Heroku, either the core products or anything in the horizon for open source for the coming months? I know it's always a tricky thing because people are, I'll get in trouble if I say anything, but any kind of glimpse you can give us of what the company's looking at in the rest of the year?
Yeah, so the GA of the kind of the re-platformed platform is this month. We have a number of things still in pilot mode, public pilot, like the managed inference and agents for the custom app dev, custom AI app dev. That's coming very soon. And we have a couple of features. We have eventing, so that it's like a pub sub. So for event-driven architecture, that's in pilot, and that'll GA sometime this year. And then we also have something called AppLink, which is really the functionality to do the seamless integration between Salesforce and the apps and agents on Salesforce, and then the custom actions and custom services that are running on Heroku.
Okay, so that's
and this
AppLink.
AppLink, and that's a very specific, like for Salesforce admins, they want to be able to handle, like how can you configure it to handle the authentication, as well as the carrying over the user context and the session context over in that round trip. So that's kind of like the big immediate ones.
Okay.
Now, we're not done on AI by any stretch of the imagination. There's a lot of activity happening around Cursor, for kind of that vibe coding, and then also MCP, the Model Context Protocol, that standardization on like that, basically the AI Tools API.
Yeah.
So you'll see some things coming out from us on those pretty soon.
You mentioned vibe coding, which we've written a little bit about, and so this is Cursor.
Cursor, yeah.
Yeah. Can you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, Cursor is like, it's basically like it's like an IDE for this new, vibe coding type of thing, or basically where you can say, someone describes the thing that they want. You're not writing the code, you're describing how you want something to work, like the workflow, and then it'll generate code for you, and then if you say, I'd like to deploy this onto Heroku, it'll then say, like, here are the commands that you should use to deploy to Heroku, like in case you've never worked with Heroku before.
Yeah.
So it's really, I think it's a huge productivity boon for a lot of developers in that it's like, I know I want to do this thing. And then it'll generate like a draft. And then they're still going to go through it, right?
Yeah.
Because there's a lot of you got to look at making sure it's going to actually behave the way that you want. Oh, I actually need to then, at this stage, make sure that it has, it does an API call to then authenticate to this other service. Whatever. There's still a lot of work that has to happen. But what it's like, the time from zero to something is so much more compressed now.
Yeah. It's. I mean, and that's we keep hearing. AI is going to make developers more of a curation sort of job rather than creating every single command.
I think what it's going to do is it'll change the skill set, because going into these different natural language driven tools, it's still not conversational language, because English is non-deterministic. So people will still have to learn how to give specific prompts to get what they want. But I think what this allows is it allows more people to be creators. So because I don't know how to use a certain language, and I'm not an actual coder, doesn't mean I can't create something.
Yeah.
Now, in order for my creation to then go to production, there are still many steps.
Yeah.
Whatever compliance, security, and making sure the thing I requested is actually how the syntax and everything is behaving. You know, you'll have skilled developers there to help with that. So I think what's great about these tools, it actually opens it up so that more people can participate. Mm-hmm. And then it has kind of like a fit for purpose, like different tools for different stages of like from build to review and deploy and run.
Okay, I think that's a good place to wrap. We'd like to thank our guest today, Betty Junod of Heroku by Salesforce. Thank you, Betty.
Thank you, Heather.
Thank you. And we'd like to thank all of you for joining us. This has been Heather Joslin for the New Stack Makers on the road in London, England. We'll see you next time.
If you like this video, please give us a thumbs up. And if you'd like to see more videos like this, you can always subscribe to our YouTube channel. We're on all the major social media platforms. You can always find us at thenewstack.io. We hope to see you soon.